Welcome back to the American Dream TV. We are back again in the coveted Wilmington, North Carolina. This time we're touring 3 different places for you to tour if you come into town and visit us here. Number 1 is going to be the spooky historic ghost tours. Number 2 is going to be the Hidden Grounds Coffee Shop, where the back terrace is actually dinosaur themed, so you're definitely going to want to check that out with us. And the third thing is the historic Thalian Hall, where they have musicals and plays and things that the entire family can enjoy. So you're not going to want to miss out on these things to do when you're in Wilmington. Why don't you come along and explore it with us?
Hi, I'm Courtney Bryant, Realtor with Castro Team, and we're here with Tamara, who hosts Ghost Walk Tours in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Happy to be here, thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the Ghost Walk Tour?
Absolutely. This tour has been in our city for over 20 years now, and it has had twice that amount of love and care put into the information that goes into the tour. It's very historically accurate, but with that history comes a lot of ghost stories here in our town. And so it's something we love to be able to share with everyone here. You come into town, you get to hear the history side of it, but you get some of our spooky ghosts as well.
Oh, awesome. We love spooky things.
So this alleyway and where you're standing right now, this was actually known as Paradise Alley back in the early 1700s, and I know it looks anything but that's exactly where you're standing, and it got its name for good reason. Back in those days, sailors would land right where we check people in on the river, and they would get off the ships. They had not stepped on dry land in quite some time. They would step off, they'd smell fresh food cooking. That's something they hadn't had, but I would say their favorite part would have been the lovely ladies of the evening that would dangle out of the alleyway windows you see all through this area. And they would beckon those sailor boys to come on in, have a good time, and spend their money. So paradise it was. Paradise it became. We are standing in front of the original Blue Post pub here in town. Now you're going back further than 300 years in this spot. Where you're standing was very much a pirate hotspot. And so a place like the Blue Post that welcomed all kinds of rowdy sailors, sea captains, and pirates into its doors had to be run with an iron fist. So who better to run the Blue Post pub all the way back in the early 1700s than a woman, ladies? That's right.
That's what we're talking about.
But this was no typical woman. She would barely be typical for today's times. Now, her name was Gallus Meg, and Gallus was a nickname, so I'll get to that in a moment. But Meg herself, all the way in the early 1700s, stood at 6'3". This woman, at her height and her long red hair, her fierce look, she towered over the majority of the clientele of men in this place, because at that time in history, it was completely normal for gentlemen to be 5'4", 5'5" at tallest. And she had 3 particular rules here at the Blue Post that you did not want to break. Rule number 1, never shoot or stab a paying customer inside. She is not cleaning up after you. Rule number 2, never fail to tip Gallus Meg or her ladies had they served you in any way. And then there's rule number 3, you had better never ever get caught harming, stealing from, harassing, hurting in any way her working ladies upstairs, if you know what I mean. All she had to do was get wind that something had gone amiss, something was going wrong, hear a scream. She would drop whatever she was doing downstairs at the bar here, charged for said offender before he could ever think about getting out of the doors behind us. And in front of whatever clientele was inside, she would hike said gentleman up by the throats, bring him out here into this alleyway where we are, and leave him up there while she would then just commence to pounding his face in.
Wow.
Now, as said gentleman's feet are actually off the ground, he is kicking, he is pulling at her hand as he's choking. Might look like somebody hanging from the gallows, right? Mm-hmm. Hence the nickname. Gallus is a derivative of gallows, especially with an Irish slang, which this woman very much was. She would go to drop him here in the alleyway, but she wouldn't quite let go yet. She leaned down and in like she was just gonna whisper one last piece of her mind, but they would not be so lucky. Instead, she would bite off all or part of said man's ear, whatever she could keep between her teeth. She would leave him screaming bloody murder here in the alleyway, go back through the doors behind me, and up to her bar. Now, in those days, front to back, this place belonged to Meg, and her bar stood in almost the direct center of this building.
Wow.
On the left corner of that bar at all times, set ajar. She would go over to that jar, she would uncork it, she would spit that ear in. It would join other ears, pieces of ears. Historically, we understand some fingers as well. She would cork the jar back, wipe the blood from her chin, and go back to serving your food and beer. That is how she ran things here at the Blue Post. And in her defense, the jar sat there at all times as a warning. Don't act this way in my establishment, or I will mark you from ever being able to come back through the doors. However, for those who could read, the jar was labeled pickled pig's ears.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you can imagine she wasn't wildly popular with all the clientele coming in and out of the Blue Post in those days. So one morning, officers are coming up these alleys, clearing out the partiers, the lingerers from the night before, when, as they approach Meg's place, they don't see anybody out by the Blue Post, except for, save one person crumpled up right in front of the doors, looking like they're sleeping. Instead of a sleeping gentleman, is a lady, Meg herself. She'd been stabbed over 30 times, right in front of her own bar door. She had bled out right here in this alleyway, already dead. And but a woman like Meg, as you can imagine, she's not going anywhere. And she spent the last 300 years now in this city, letting us know front to back, this location is still very much under her control. They began an archaeological dig to go back into history here, to get into this portion before we lose that history that's inside. But any ghost fans will tell you, you start digging up that kind of history in a place like this, you are getting everything that goes along with it. Now, wrapping that up, I would tell you there's some great moral to this story, but this place was never about morals, so you can see how things like that happen here.
Wow. Talk about girl power, though. How
Yes.
cool.
Ladies standing their own in the early 1700s.
right.
That's
here.
awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. This is just one of many that you can experience on this ghost tour, and we're hopefully going to check out the rest. But thank you for stopping here
Thank
and
you for
letting us
having
in.
me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Shane, thank you so much for having us out this evening. I know you have got a big event tonight, so I won't hold you up too long, but I have a few questions for you. So the first thing I'm curious about, Thalian Hall, and my team was specific in informing me that this is actually called Historic Thalian Hall. Can you tell me a little bit about the name of the building and the historical aspect of it?
Some incredible features which are very unique to this building, including the oldest stage curtain in the United States, which hangs in our parquet lobby, which was the original curtain which hung here for opening night in 1858. We also have above the stage in the attic a piece of 19th century stage technology called the thunder roll. And this technology creates a thunderstorm. You hear it approaching the building, you hear it right over the room, and then it moves away. And then creates the sound of rain and rumbling thunder and cracks of thunder as well. And it has functioned that way for 166 years. And it is one of the oldest continually operating theaters in America. A lot of different treasures here. Thalian, the name, goes back to dramatic groups which were in the American colonies in the 18th century, and they were called Thalian associations. And there are numerous Thalian associations in the state of North Carolina, as well as in the American colonies, and they were originally gentlemen's groups of performers, performance troupes, and they would produce shows for their communities. And it's very Shakespearean. The men would play the male and the female roles because women, were thought to be unsavory to have women on stage at that time, and then that transformed through the 19th century. But these Thalian troupes, there was one in Wilmington, which traces its roots back to 1788. And that organization was instrumental in building Thalian Hall, the opera house portion of this complex. Thalian Association went bankrupt about a year and a half after it opened, and the building was turned over to the city of Wilmington. So the people of Wilmington still own this building. So all of our citizens here, this is your home.
That is so cool. Who knew that there was so much history in just this building here, let alone all of Wilmington, but just in this one building here, there's such a big story to tell.
Yeah.
Over 100 years worth.
What is special to me is for this building is you have the historical aspect, but also it's still speaking to the generations that are here now and the generations that are going to come after us. This stage is one of the most technologically advanced stages in the state. It can do pretty much anything a touring house can do in terms of the lighting, the number of line sets and rigging for scenery changes, the sound system, the projection system. It's all state of the art. And our community gets to use it. And so that's also very special. Debatably the most utilized historic venue in the nation. We have over 700 events a year here in this building. 43 renters, community organizations use this space. So it is a highly used building by the citizens, and so this is their stage to play on, and that investment in the technology is important because it makes all of our regional performers shine.
So when someone is exploring what they can come to see here in the programs that you offer, what are some of the variety of things that they can expect to see?
Oh goodness, well it's a multidisciplinary venue, so that means we do everything soup to nuts. A rock and roll show, there's film festivals, musicals, opera, comedy, you name it. We do it.
That's beautiful. Big variety too. And actually you're hearing them gear up for something that's happening this evening. Can you tell us what's going on down here tonight?
So yeah, this is Opera House Theater Company, musical Heathers, and this is their apprentice group. So these are all young people who are part of the performers, but also the technical crews, and this is a youth-based production. So preparing the next generation.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time and your attention to detail with all of this. It's in great care with you, we can all tell. So yes, we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back to historic Wilmington, North Carolina with us for a second episode of American Dream TV. We hope to cross paths with you again really soon.